my dear chat. I have made a grave mistake, a huge error. I was supposed to set the stream for 6 p.m., but instead I set it for 6 a.m. And then I thought, hey, what the heck? Might as well stream for the Amerikanski today. Because right now it's when most of my American subscribers are awake, so it's not like it's a wasted opportunity or anything like that. Yeah, I just woke up, so perfect time to stream. I need to do a Hassan Piker, leave the microphone open while I go to eat. By the way, what is that with Twitch streamers? Like, there's a lot of YouTube streamers and VTube streamers, they don't eat during stream. Isn't that a little bit disrespectful? Because I think it is disrespectful. Imagine if you watch CNN and the news anchor starts eating, stuffing their face with food. It reminds me of AOC, like she did it as well in a video. She was like, nom, 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 nom. And it was even a small TikTok video. It wasn't like she was streaming for 12 hours straight and she had to eat. So it is what it is. I just explained the odd hours called this beer. You need to pay attention. You need to be a little bit more awake. I have an excuse for not being awake because I just woke up, but what is yours? So yes, hello Razmaz. Going to be talking about some very interesting things today. One of which is a very important academic debate happening in the United States. I hope I saved it. Oh yes, I did save it. Like this is just beautiful. You know, this is why you need to send people to university so that they can understand what is being discussed here. Look at it. What can be more American than this? Like when I was thinking of America, I was thinking of Superman, I was thinking of burgers, I was thinking of guns, but now I think of that. Like that is the most American thing, and they are trying to spread that type of culture around the world. I mean, it's such a noble pursuit. It reminds me of the time when the colonizers would go on boats into other places in order to spread Christianity. And now we have that. Absolutely beautiful. It is the most American thing that I can think of. You know, like in Afghanistan, like if you actually watch some of the stories that were coming from there, apparently they were forcing diversity upon the Afghanistani people. So they had one of these things where you needed to have a specific number of women as representatives. So it was like a percentage of legislatives have to be women. And apparently, like, some of the women there never visited their constituency. It's usually what happens, like, when you try to force things in this manner. So there were women that never visited their constituency. Apparently, it led to revolts. Right? So, things that could have been avoided. Like, initially, America was trying to spread democracy into places where democracy just doesn't belong. I mean, here's the thing, right, with democracy. Like, what do you do if the people that you want to push democracy on don't want it? Right? Like, if democratically people would gather and they would say, no, we want Sharia law. Like, we don't want democracy. We want a theocratic religion. Because all of us believe in God. And we believe that this is how God wanted us to govern ourselves. And this is what we want to do, right? And democratically they decide this. Like, the overwhelming majority of people want this. How can you push democracy then? Right? Like, there is no fucking way. So, that didn't work. And then the second one was like, okay, well, we're going to push diversity, inclusive, and equity. And it's interesting because the way diversity, inclusivity, and equity is done is by requiring American culture to exist. Like, you can't push it in places where there's no American culture. What I mean by this, part of diversity, inclusivity, and equity is to abolish gender, right? And in order to do this, you have to come up with like all these other pronouns like her, her, but also you try to eliminate things like Latina. So now it's Latinx. But the problem is like you need the American language to do this because there are other languages like German, like French, where everything is gendered. So in Germany, like the spoon, I believe it's male, money is female, the table is neutral, right? Like every single thing, every object has a gender. How do you eliminate a gender from that language? You just can't. Good morning, Yataro. So yes, professors turning into activists. Quick explanation of our time. You know what's interesting? I looked a little bit about the history before World War II. Apparently, there were Nazi professors and communist professors within the same university, and they hated each other. But it's so fascinating, right? Like your economics professor would be a Nazi, and then you would go with your law professor, and he was a communist. That would have been an interesting time. But apparently, they, you know, in some countries the Nazis prevailed, and in others the communists did. I'm curious, like how they managed to keep stuff in the U.S. I think like the First Amendment, the Constitution managed to keep U.S. from becoming fascist or communist. Kind of difficult to impose an authoritarian ideology when people have guns. Oh look, money is neutral. Table is male. I don't fucking care, man. You don't have to be precise when you're explaining these things. You just use it as an example. It's not like someone is going to learn German from me. As the objects, their pronouns. That is such a fucking good idea. But I usually heard it's like, oh, this does not have any consequence, right? So like if you misgender the table, it doesn't have a consequence. But if you misgender a person, it has tremendous consequences. And I'm like, oh, I see. By the way, one of the things that you should fight whenever you hear it, because it's one of the most ridiculous things ever. Doctors assign gender at birth, right? So this is one of their talking points, and it's so false because a doctor does not assign gender. A doctor observes the sex, right? So like, if a doctor sees a penis, they will not say, by the holy powers invested in me by Dr. Fauci, I hereby pronounce this child to be a woman, right? Because that would mean assigning. Like it would mean that the doctor has the liberty of deciding whichever gender he wants, but that's not what happens, right? I also made this claim about Hogwarts. Like Hogwarts supports transgender ideology because when you start the game, it allows you to choose between male and female, and that means that you have a choice, which means that it's pro-trans. An actual game that is transphobic would be Hitman. In Hitman, you don't get to choose. You're assigned to be Agent 47. So yes. By the way, also a very beautiful talking point, which I found out. Give me a second. See if I can discover it again. Did I not save it? Because I think I saved it. Never mind, I did save it. Here we go. It's loading. Takes a while. It's morning even for the computer, not just for me. So you get a lot of games which are saying type A body type and type B body type, right? So like they try to refuse using the word man and woman. And the question is like, why is type A body type with a naked chest and type B body type with a covered chest? Right, so the person asks, like, why can't type B have the chest uncovered? And the answer is, oh, because it's a woman. Right, so they go around, like, trying to be like type A, type B in order to avoid man and woman. But the type A body type can have a naked chest and the type B body type can't. So it's like the question, well, why can't type B be like type A? It's like, oh, because it's actually a woman. I think, like, the first time I saw type A, type B was in... what was it? Elden Ring. Yes, Elden Ring was the first game which had that nonsense with type A, type B. One of the biggest nonsenses that I saw. Found your uncensored South Park Super Best Friends episode. I'm not interested in them. Like, I know where to find them. I'm saying that you cannot find them legally. Okay? You cannot find them legally. So if you have a legal version of the South Park episode that has been censored, you can probably sell it for a lot in the next couple of years for collectors value. But it has to be like a legal CD or a legal something. You can't just pirate it. right? So if you happen to have like it on a did they have like DVDs back then? I think they did, right? If you have like the original DVDs and you're like, oh well, this is the episode that got censored in 2013, you can sell it for a lot of money. Legacy woman. Oh my god, I'm going to use this word. Hold on, I'm actually tweeting it out. Legacy woman. New word just dropped. Legacy woman. New word just dropped when talking to American idols. This is going to trigger them. This is going to trigger them so fucking much. Yes, legacy woman. By the way, did you notice that they don't use the word feminism at all anymore? I haven't seen it in any single newspaper. Like, have you? Unless they talk about TERFs. Like, TERF is the only time you actually get to utter the word. You see a journalist uttering the acronym of feminism. AI art is jaw-dropping. Yes, artificial art is jaw-dropping, but it's hard to use for commercial use right now. Most of the AI have TOS against that. I'm telling you, the problem with the AI art that websites are going to have to deal with, especially like DeviantArt. Like, think about it this way. You have people that draw on DeviantArt, and a lot of them are beginner artists, and they just do like a little doodle. Maybe they add a little bit of color, and you know, the whole file is less than 5 megabytes. Now, you're going to have people that generate 4K artificial intelligence art, and they're generating like thousands of these pictures per month. You're going to overflood those servers. Like, think about it. Imagine if like 10,000 people generate all of these AI art pictures every single month, and they're 4K. That's going to be a big problem for these websites. So this is why a lot of them are going to probably outright ban AI art. Not because they don't agree with it, but because it takes a lot of space. It's easy to produce. A lot of people will have a lot, unless they put like a subscription fee. Like, that's another possibility. So like, they limit how much you can upload. You say that server load is a non-issue, but you do not understand the quantity of things that are going to be uploaded. First of all, it's not just artists that are going to upload AI art. I mean, I can upload AI art and I can't draw for shit, right? So you're going to have like a lot of people that are going to upload their stuff, so it will become an issue. Anyway, the robot twins from Atomic Heart are ushikushi. I haven't played Atomic Heart yet. I need to, though. I really need to. Listen to this. This is on Sunday Night Live, I've been told. Sunday Night Live. Look at this gentleman laughing in the background. Even the musicians are laughing in the background. This is funny, by the way. If I said this 2 years ago, I would have gotten in trouble.
Okay, so the movie goes like this. The biggest drug cartels in the world get together and buy up all the media and all the politicians and force all the people in the world to stay locked in their homes, and people can only come out if they take the cartel's drugs and keep taking them over and over. I threw the script away. I mean, who is gonna believe that crazy idea? Okay.
Honestly, I was shocked as well during the pandemic. I literally couldn't believe how fast you could convince people that upside down is actually down, down is upside down, then you reverse it again. They're still trying to get him in trouble over this joke. Well, the thing is, right? The main problem that I had is, like, I understand that most people have short-term memories. So, if something happens today, like, let's say a politician says something, right? But, like, over 3 years, the same politician contradicts themselves completely 180. Most people don't remember, so that's fine. You know, like, people don't have long-term memory. But during the pandemic, you had this thing where they would say everyone needs to sit in their homes because it's dangerous to go outside, you can kill grandma. And I'm like, well, okay, fine. But then the next day, it's like everyone needs to go outside and they need to protest Black Lives Matter, human rights. And I'm thinking like, okay, so they don't want the people from BLM to stay safe? Like, they don't care about their health? But now basically, like, everyone is encouraging in the media, no, you need to go out, you need to protest. Okay. And then after the elections, they're like, oh no, now you need to go back inside. And I'm thinking like, how are people coping with this? Like, you're literally being told, stay inside, stay safe, go outside, go protest, go back inside, shut down your business. And I'm thinking like, dude, there is no fucking way that people aren't seeing through the bullshit. Like, at least someone would be upset. It's like, look, I don't care which stance you take, but at least be fucking consistent. At least, you know, like, if you're concerned about people's health, it's like, be concerned about people's health. If you don't, then you're concerned about liberty. Be concerned about liberty. What the fuck are you doing? Go inside, go outside, go inside. It's like, okay. So that was like one of the things that baffled my brain. And the other thing that baffled my brain was that we went from, oh my god, well, asking minorities to have an ID card to vote is racist because an ID card costs $20 and there's a lot of poor minorities and they can't afford it or don't know how to get it. Like, that was the arguments that they used. And then it was like, you need to show QR code to your McDonald's waiter. Make sure you have a smartphone. And I'm like, okay, so where did that argument go? You know, we're going from, oh my god, Trump is a fascist. Fascist bad. Fascismus. Okay, so fascism bad. And now you're like, checkpoints at every street, police patrolling and looking into your shopping bags in the UK. You're not allowed to leave your house. You're not allowed to open your business unless the government allows you to. And on top of that, you gotta show QR codes. You gotta show papers at every street corner. And I'm thinking like, okay, so how do these people cope? Like, a couple of weeks ago, they were like having this hashtag, what was it? White House siege, where they had President Trump being escorted by the by the secret service. They escorted him into the White House bunker, right? And the media laughed at that. Like, that was funny at the time. So you go from that, you know, like, people were so worried about fascism that they did that protest to like, oh, well, actually, you need to stay indoors and you need to have your business locked down and you need to show QR codes to everyone. And like, it baffled my brain. I genuinely did not think that is possible. Okay. Like, I knew that people can be manipulated, but not at this fucking level. Oh, Steve Watt, thank you. Hello V just dropped in to give you more Australian funny money. Hope you have a great live stream. It's not funny money. It's actually very worthwhile. Sorry, very valuable. How's the things in Australia, Steve? Like, I stopped following the news. Australia was like becoming one of the most authoritarian countries during the pandemic. That and Germany. But like, what Australians did, and this actually shocked me. I didn't think it's possible. They have like their parliament, where, you know, they're representatives, like the equivalent of senators, I guess. And they basically said that if you're not vaccinated, you can't get into parliament. So basically, if I'm vaccinated and I vote for a representative, my representative was now unable to represent me because they didn't take the vaccine, which is like kind of weird because that wasn't in the legislation before, right? So what they did is like, they decided that everyone that was not vaccinated, basically people who probably were against the mandates, they're not allowed to go in. And if they're not allowed to go in, then they could pass legislation rapidly because their opposition wasn't allowed to take part into the voting process, right? And the reason that this is bullshit is because they could have used Zoom. Like, if they were so concerned about health issues, right, rather than just eliminating the opposition from voting, they could have used Zoom. But they didn't, right? So, like, they got a lot of emergency powers, they got a lot of authority, and then they had the QR code at the shopping places. Like, if you wanted to shop, you have to show QR code, right? So even if you're complying, even if you're like, okay, well, fine, I'll just take the damn thing. Just let me go on with my life. You are now into the system where you have to show papers everywhere you go. So I'm curious about what happened after that, because I didn't follow it. Australia went back to its roots, a prison colony. Well, you need to also understand that the roots of Australia isn't just to be a prison colony. It's also to have jailers and wardens. So, yeah. Only narrowly was it implemented. But it doesn't matter. Like, the fact that they wanted to implement it is interesting. It's not even, like, I wouldn't even call it the woke left at this point. Like, globalists, I don't think they're just part of the woke left. Like, it's a separate ideology that you have on Twitter versus the ideology of the politicians and the academics. I know more about what is happening in America and around the world because Australia is not a very nice place to live. Well, to be honest, I wouldn't like to live in Australia, not because of the politics, but due to all of the fauna that you have there. Like, I was talking to Bering, and I keep saying this, like, it just marked me. Like, it's in my brain. Like, Bering was taking a shit on the toilet, and then this poisonous snake comes from behind him, and I'm like, dude, like, how can you live like that? And then he tells me, oh yeah, so in my garage I saw like this huntsman spider, and I'm like, okay. So yeah, I mean, when I look at Australia, it's very interesting. I got some neighbors that basically couldn't cope. Like, that was hilarious, right? So they left Romania, they went to Australia, and they came back and they said that the things that they saw there and the ways things are going to, it reminded them of communism. And I'm like, all right. But they came back during the pandemic, so we're talking about, you know, like when you had to show QR codes and shit, and they didn't like that. But it was also like the culture of fear they described. They were in the IT business, so they were in the corporate sector. It's like the culture of fear that you can say a joke, you can do something that upsets someone, and that just doesn't exist here. So I hear the same about Canada, and I never heard the same about the United States, though, right? But I did hear the same about Canada and Germany. Germany is another one where you can get in trouble for jokes. We have very beautiful rural areas, just like Romania. Yeah, I heard that in most countries, actually. You know, it's usually the cities that are to blame for all of this. So the cities keep voting for this type of legislation. The cities enjoy it. But the people in the rural area don't. And usually the people in charge, they have less authority as further away you move from the city, right? So like if you're in a rural area, you can probably say as much hate speech as you want and no one gives a shit. But if you're in a city, then it's a different issue. New Zealand also has a culture of fear. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I'm curious like what will happen in the next elections. I don't know if it will change much, but honestly, like New Zealand, that terrorist got exactly what he wanted. Like if you read the manifesto, like literally what he wanted to do was to create a moral panic that would cause more authoritarianism from the left. So basically he wanted the left to seize the guns away from people, to restrict some liberties, right? To have more authoritarianism, to invade into people's private lives, and he succeeded. But what's interesting is that manifesto was getting banned everywhere. Right? Like, they didn't want people to actually read, because then they would have said, like, hold on, why is the government doing exactly what this guy wanted? I don't think, like, there was a more successful manifesto than his. Like, literally everything that he wanted came to pass in New Zealand. Very concerning and disturbing. But it is what it is, right? So, and he was an Australian as well. Like, he came from Australia, went to New Zealand, shot up a mosque, and he said that he's doing this in order to spark a conversation and to get the New Zealand government to take away the guns from people. Like, that's literally what he said. And what happened? Yeah, I don't. This is why I don't believe in accelerationism, right? It's such a dumb concept. So the idea of accelerationism is that people do not understand how bad things are until they get bad. So basically, if you accelerate things, then people will notice that it's bad, and then they will, I guess, rise up or demand change. That doesn't fucking happen. Like, you need to understand, authoritarianism exists around the world. It is the de facto state. I mean, we live from feudalism. Feudalism was the most authoritarian thing that existed. It was called absolutism, right? And people were fine with it. You look at places like the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union lasted for decades. People were fine with it. Like, it's not the idea, oh, we're going to accelerate and it's going to be bad and everyone... No, you're going to accelerate and it's going to be bad, period. There is no, like, end. And even if you get change, the change will come in decades. It doesn't come, right? So, like, everyone that's like, oh, well, accelerationism, it's not good. It's not good. You're not doing anything good. It's a Bolshevik tactic. Yeah, but it doesn't fucking work. I haven't seen accelerationism work once. I do not know, like, even in human history, when it actually worked. It's like, oh yeah, well, let's push the agenda of the people we oppose so that people can see how bad it is. No, that's just not happening. It's not that people are fine with it, it's that people are remarkably good at coping with tyranny. Yeah. Maybe I expressed myself wrong, but it is what it is, right? Like, people are really good at adapting. What most people do is that they will try to oppose as little resistance as possible. So basically, you bow your head and you keep walking, right? And if you do that, no one is going to mess with you. It's like, okay, what do they want me to do? They want me to say the pronouns. Okay, fine, I'll say the pronouns. They want me to stop using gamer words. Okay, I'll stop using gamer words. They want me to pay more taxes. Okay, I'll pay more taxes. So that's pretty much how it goes, right? And it only happens like when people are actually affected, like they can't put food on the table, that they may go out and protest. But even then, if you can't put food on the table, many people will try alternatives. They will be like, all right, so I can't put food on the table. Maybe I can do some hustle. Maybe I can do a side job. Maybe I can grow something myself. Like they will try everything possible before they're going to go out and try to protest or change the system or whatever. I've got a scoot and boot. Have a good one. Why, thank you, Steve. Wow, you gave me a lot of money today. I appreciate it. Maybe it's cope, but the acceleration is like the last hope that people will wake up. Well, look at the United States, right? Like when people finally woke up, like when I saw a massive transition from the left to the right, was with the Drag Kids Story Hour, right? So the Drag Kids Story Hour was a problem because all of a sudden now it's, oh, well, what if it's my kid, right? So you have like all these university teachers and professors just spewing all of this crap on children that has nothing to do with education, that has nothing to do with like helping them get a job. And a lot of parents were worried that it's like, dude, I'm spending like $15,000 on this private school. What the fuck is going on? And they saw it during COVID because like finally they could see what their kids are being taught in class because they were working from home and the kid was at school and home. So that's when they immediately started changing the school board's administrators, right? So they started voting them out. And you also have the Youngkin example. So Governor Youngkin was very unpopular. But the moment he had like literally one platform, it's like let's get this shit out of schools. He manages to win the governorship. It's like literally one issue. Like he managed to get leftists to vote for him, and he was a Republican. So yeah, it's when people are being affected that you notice a change, but they don't have to be affected in what you think is important. So like for example, if they have to show QR code to enter a McDonald's, they will show QR code to enter a McDonald's. No, they have to be affected as in not have food on the table and also be able to correlate that the problem is because of the government. So if you can, for example, if the government tells people you don't have food on the table because supply chain shortages, they don't understand what the fuck that is, and they will think it's like, oh, so it's from China or somewhere else. So their indignation is going to be misplaced. Right? But like they don't understand, well, why are there supply shortages? Oh, it's because the government shut down the economy. Why did the government shut down the economy? So I can take product from the drug cartel. Oh, I see. But like most people don't think like that. Most people are like, oh, well, it's magical. Like all of a sudden there's a trucker shortage. I don't know why. It just happened. The shooter from New Zealand had the symbol of the Iron Guard symbol on his gun. He had like a lot of symbols, man. He had almost everything that he could think of. Like he even said, subscribe to PewDiePie. He did literally everything imaginable in order to get the attention of the mainstream media. And yes, the Iron Guard would be the equivalent of the Romanian fascist thing, but you can't really compare them to fascists because they were different than the ones in Italy. Hitler himself didn't like them. They had like a particular Romanian type ideology. And their main concern was that Romanian men are getting weaker. And they wanted to revert back to the classic gender roles and believe in Jesus, basically. And their methods was also violent. Usually journalists that complained about them were found out to be shot. So that's why they're not good people, because they performed a lot of assassinations. However, their leader, at least, was always found innocent, and eventually the state assassinated him. That's the story of the Iron Guard. And now it's being viewed as it's not as bad as the Nazis, right? But it's still bad. Like, it's not palatable for the public. In Romania, we do not tolerate communists or fascists. It's considered to be ideologies that go against the integrity of the state. Anyway. The problem that the government had with them wasn't the hatred, right? Like the hate speech, because at the time most political parties were anti-Semitic, were filled with like what we would consider today hate speech. No, the problem is that they arrived from nowhere and started gaining power, right? And back then most power was held in traditional families. So you have like this group comes out, starts helping people, like literally has volunteers that organize soup kitchens, builds hospitals, builds roads, right? Like they do it without getting paid. And now they're creating this alternative economy as well. Like they wouldn't allow you in their business unless you're affiliated with the Iron Guard. So that was like the biggest concern that the government had. And then they were trying to get foreign support. So they were trying to talk with Germany. Because like at the time, Europe was splintered between communism and Nazism. And some people were with the Soviet Union, other people were with Germany, and they were trying to talk, like they were having backroom deals with Germany in order to get more support. So like the Romanian government viewed that as an insurrection attempt, so they had to crack down on it. But like that's the actual, like politics behind the scenes type of thing. Because at the time, you gotta understand, like fascism was a very possible alternative for many countries. I mean, you had it in Italy, you had it, you had Nazism in Germany. The idea of authoritarianism was actually the norm in Europe. The only country that didn't have authoritarianism was the United States. And I guess it's the satellite countries at the time, the United Kingdom. Don't know much about Australia and Canada, but I assume they weren't trying to push for authoritarianism either. Yeah. Anyway, right. Let's talk about the subject of the stream, which is the jobs. Where did I put the jobs? Here I put the jobs. We took our jobs. Yahoo lifestyle. I'm really curious if they're going to have diversity officers as one of these jobs. I do not know what the jobs are, but I found the article and I said, you know what, this may be interesting. It's always funny when I run circles around the self-proclaimed fascists because they're too lazy to read their own philosophy. I can make better fascist arguments. It is true. Fascism is actually not as compiled as Nazism. Like with Nazism, you get one book. And then you have like additional literature, but like at least, and it's the same with communism. Like you get the Communist Manifesto, and then you have additional literature. But with fascism, it's all over the fucking place, right? And then they're even like, who's the actual Like, okay, so you read Benito Mussolini's things, but he's not. He doesn't write like the complete ideology. So now you have to read others. And this is why, like, many fascists don't know their identity. But anyway, right, so let's see what this is about. Put your bets in chat which jobs will be unnecessary. Hospital CEOs. Most hospital upper management. There are so many layers of management that many of them barely step foot into a healthcare facility. Yet they make 7-figure salaries plus mega bonuses. That's hundreds of millions of wasted dollars paid to the people screwing medical bill staff out of decent pay. I can't speak for the United States, but I can tell you in Romania, the fact that there's money from the government, like every single thing that's run publicly, you're going to have these people that leech money. And the reason you have this bureaucracy is because you have to explain where the public money is going to. You can't just, like for example, if my hospital wants to buy an EKG device, right? I mean, it's something that normally you can do in an afternoon, right? Like you go to the store, you buy an EKG device, it's not that fucking expensive, there you go. With a hospital, they can't do that if it's run on a public sector. So like publicly, they have to start, someone needs to file that they need an EKG device. Then someone else has to start an auction, right? So there's a lot of paperwork involved, there's legal. Now you have like 3 different companies that are coming in to sell you the EKG device. And then you have like to create a system that decides which one is the best. And best is very subjective here because you can either go for price, you can go for functionality, you can take a mixture of both. So look how many people are involved in the public sector just to buy the EKG device. Meanwhile, in the private sector, you just need like the person to authorize it, and they can be like, okay, well, this is not an expense that's going to cripple us, just buy whatever. Sure, Fat Otaku's content is boring this day? Wow, holy shit. He's got more subs than me, then that means that I'm even more boring. But basically, like, this is why you have bureaucracy in the public sector, right? So like, all the people that are not involved in doing medicine whatsoever, like, everything that I said up until now is just either legal work, accountant, management, and they're getting paid very well. Why? Because they're the ones that get to decide who gets paid. If someone has the title regional vice president, they probably do absolutely nothing at work other than collect a check. So this is something else that the left doesn't understand. Usually when you have a big business and we're talking about the size of a country, like for example McDonald's, right? Like McDonald's is an empire. And in order to be at McDonald's, you have to follow certain standards. Like, you can't just cook that hamburger however you want. There is a proper way to do it, and you need to follow that. Now, what happens is that normally all of these stores functions properly. But every now and then there are irregularities, and someone that has authority over those stores needs to go there. So just because, like, that person doesn't do much, because, like, usually everything is fine, that doesn't mean that they're not necessary. Like, if you were to get rid of regional vice presidents, then you would have, like, a domino effect eventually. Because, like, one store will start having those irregularities, and other stores will notice, and they will be like, oh, so they can get away with it. Well, we can get away with it as well. Because usually the irregularities happen because the store can try to save money on something, or, you know. But you do need these regional managers. Vice presidents tend to do all the work in the corporate sphere. Yeah. This is cringe. It's people who literally do not understand how the business works, and they see... It's the same with the CEO. You know, like a CEO doesn't actually... depending on the CEO, but usually they don't do that much work. Like, maybe they have like 1 or 2 decisions a day, and that's it. But anyway... have you seen Russia's new McDonald's? I heard it's literally like the same old McDonald's. Like, they didn't add anything. It gets to a stage where the workers can do the work themselves without managerial oversight. Correct, right? It's kind of like a World of Warcraft guild. Like, if you're the guild master and you do a good job, eventually you don't need to constantly make decisions. But the thing is, like, when the drama happens, and it will happen, when things do go bad, and they will go bad, you're still needed. Yeah, it is the broken window theory. It's a good way to say it. Ferrari strategist. You'd think out of pure dumb luck they'd eventually make a correct call. You'd be wrong. Well, I guess this is shit posting. US government contractors require high security clearances. Entry-level pay isn't that high, but once you're initially cleared, other contractors will offer bigger bucks because you can get cleared with them quickly. Jump from one to another. Well, again, like... I think they have a problem with the way public resources are spent. But you need all these safety systems in check. Because if you're a politician and you just hire a random company. and this is actually something that happens a lot of time. So let's say I'm a politician and I need to fix a road or fix a bridge. And I hire a company. If that bridge collapses, then people are going to blame me as if I'm responsible. So in order to avoid responsibility, I need to show that I did my due diligence when hiring that company. So I had an auction, I checked their clearances, blah, blah, blah. Like, you need these systems in place. So you have, like, people, and this is Yahoo Life, they're left-leaning. You have left-leaning people that are like, oh, we want more bigger government. And then they're complaining. It's like, oh, well, government is moving so slowly. Government is having so much unnecessary bureaucracy. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, government is inefficient. The only thing the government is efficient at is at waging war. Period. And even then, only a minority of contracts require clearance. Well, they're talking about those that do, so I'm going to just assume that's the case. My mom is the vice president of reward at an international company. She basically arranges contracts so millionaires can get more money, and she's paid a lot of money for it. Even she thinks it's ridiculous. Well, if you're dealing like fucking hell. Rich people do not have the same value, the same concept of value that we have. So, for example, if you're a millionaire, it's very unlikely you know how much a pack of Cheerios cost, right? Like, I'm willing to bet a millionaire has no fucking idea how much is a cardboard of eggs, right? But if you ask when my mom was alive, if you asked her, like, she would tell you. Why? Because she actually did shopping and, you know, like, she was concerned about how much money she's spending on everything, right? So when you're poor, you have a different concept of money. When you're a millionaire, you don't fucking care. This is why, like, if you're a butler for a millionaire, they will often give you their Ferrari. So, like, when the millionaire buys the second car, he will probably just give the first car to his butler. Why? Because for him, it doesn't have that much value. So if you're going to work with millionaires, they're going to pay you a lot. Because for them, $189,000 a year, it's nothing. It's like fucking change. You know, imagine if you're an American and you're going into a country in Africa where with $1 you can, let's say, with $1 you can buy 10 pounds of meat, right? So all of a sudden your money is worth a lot. Now, when you are going to tip someone, like you're tipping a waiter and you're giving them like $5 as a tip, that sounds like a lot for them, but for you it's nothing. You're like, oh, I just gave him $5. Like, what's the problem? And everyone is like, well, what did you do? Why did you give him so much? It actually reminds me with what happened in my country when I had a Norwegian exchange student. So there was like this Norwegian exchange student came here, you know, we got him out drinking, like he was bewildered of the fact like alcohol is so cheap here. And there was a beggar in the streets. And he gave, I think it was like 10 euros to that beggar. And the beggar like had this face of disbelief. It was Romanian money, but like it was 10 euros equivalent. And this beggar like just had this face of utter disbelief. Like he was probably making that much by begging for a week. And he just got it from this guy. And the Norwegian is like, did I insult him? Did I give it to... And I'm like, no, you did not. you didn't insult. No, it's good. Oh my god, thank you for the super chat, Bob Cohen. Oh, I made a lot of money today for some reason. Was this stream that interesting? Like, I'll have to make it more interesting next time. No, I don't mean Arch. There are more Norwegians besides Arch, believe it or not. The country has a lot of people. But, it's kind of like when you play World of Warcraft, you know, and you're level 60, and you got, like, a lot of gold, but when you're level 1 and to 10, you're only dealing with copper. So it's kind of like, you know, giving 1 gold coin to a level 10. Like, they're just going to be like, wow, this is going to last me until I'm level 40. It's a lot of money. Almost all of the upper level administrators at the university I work for. I agree with this. I'm not even going to spend time. My uncle was a commercial airline pilot. He described his job as vastly overpaid in normal circumstances and vastly underpaid in emergency situations. My god, like, look at this article. This is such a fucking clickbait article. You're telling me jobs that are useless and overpaid. Okay, fine. And then you're talking about an airline pilot. How is an airline pilot overpaid? You do realize, like, even if, like, first of all, very few people are pilots, right? So you have a shortage of workers. And then you want them to be vaccinated, so now the shortage goes even more. But not only that, it's such a difficult job because you're not sleeping at home. Like, you're flying your fucking plane between countries. Your wife is probably upset because she doesn't see you as much as she wants to. But how would you even pay it during emergency situations and normal circumstances? Like, how do you do that? How do you even quantify? It's like, okay, so now I had an emergency situation. Now I get to be paid more. You do realize that if you even did that, the pilots would then start to fake emergency situations to get more money. Because, like, this is how human beings work, right? Like, why do people have a job? To make money. If there is a way that they can make more money, like, for example, being nice to the customer, they're going to be nice to the customer. If they're going to get more money by being rude, guess what will happen? Planes should be flown by a democratic process. Fucking hell. Not all pilots make tons of money. It depends what you understand by tons of money. But at least from what I understand, most pilots are well compensated. I'm a consultant. It's just outsourced office work and creating fluffy PowerPoints to give executive an excuse to authorize spending. Do you understand how valuable that fucking is? Like, just because you're not putting a lot of effort into doing what you're doing, you're like the priestly class, basically. You're giving the king authority to do shit that they normally wouldn't be able to do. So it's not a useless job. You're actually fulfilling a function. Like, executives want to do something, but they can't do it. So they hire someone, like an expert, in order to allow them to do it. Like, I'm sorry, but this is a useful job. I know a life coach who charges per person for a seminar. There's just 4 hours of her leading yoga and breathing exercise. She makes $2,400 per week. Well, look, as long as idiots are going to buy it, it's not your fault for selling it. I do believe that it's a it is a useless job, yes, but it's not overpaid. Why? Because everything is worth what a purchaser would pay for. Like, no, seriously, like, think about it. If I were to put a paywall on my YouTube videos, and people would pay $100 to see them, why would I take the paywall off? Like, that, right? The only reason I don't have it is because no one would pay $100 to see my shit. But, like, if I knew that if I put a paywall, people would pay $100 to see my shit, I would put the paywall. If I knew that people would pay $500 to see my shit, I would raise the price. It's literally how the economy works for everything. Everything. Not just this. Right? Like, for example, if you're an artist and you draw and you get like 1,000 people that are trying to commission you, you're going to raise the price because you're going to be like, okay, well, if I got 1,000 people wanting to commission me, let's see what happens if I put the price at $1,000. And then you have 200 people commissioning you. And you're like, holy shit. Okay, well, I'm going to put the price at $3,000. And then you're going to have like 10 people commissioning you. And you're going to be, you know what? Maybe this price is right because now I can actually do all the commissions and I make more money. It's not even hustling. It's just like normal way to price people's work. It's like, how much are you in demand? And how much is the service that you provide being in demand? It doesn't matter what it is. You can spit on people. For example, if you're a sexy lady and people want you to step on them, you know, like stepping on people is usually something that's not paid. But like, if you get like 1 million people, you're Booba lady from Resident Evil. And people are like, oh, step on me, lady. And you know what? Fine, $50. And you still get like 1,000 people watching. Like, okay, fine, $500. You know? And you keep raising and raising until you get to that spot where you can step on the optimal number of people and make as much money as possible. Yeah, it's price optimum, you see? There's even a term for it. Price optimum. Do car salesmen really do any work? Last time I bought a car, I looked online, did my research. That is such a fucking dumb statement. Holy shit. Holy shit. You did your own research. Good, fine. You know, I was told you can't do that. It's a good thing you did it with cars and not drugs from Pfizer, because then you'd have gotten in trouble. You're not allowed to do research on that. But like, the idea that car salesmen don't do anything, what, are you fucking kidding me? Like, first of all, I would not go to a place that wouldn't have a car salesman. So like you just go into a place and you have the cars and you just order your car. Like, no, I would not do that because I want the person that I can ask some questions. Like, it's a big investment. I sold cars and it was the worst job ever. I'm not talking about if the job is good or bad. I'm talking about the fact that it is useful, right? So like people who want to buy cars, they do require to talk to a normal human being and ask questions. And I do think that the car salesman makes a difference. Yeah, like I do think like a car salesman can increase your sales by at least 5%. Probably more. But like they will... if you go to a place with a bad car salesman and you go to a place with a good one, I think you will notice a difference. Salesmen are generally going to know a lot of the details that the customers are going to want to know, of course. My IT director, he's never around, automates his emails and run his own company on the side. But again, it's not a useless job. Like if this is what really bothers me. So like if a person is efficient and knows how to do the job, why are you complaining? Gillette engineers, they took 5 years to go from 3 blades to 4. I do not know why they went from 3 blades to 4, but I'm pretty sure that Gillette engineers do more than that. I would say that the Gillette marketers, the ones that decided to do that commercial, they're the ones that are overpaid. Salesmen will lie about said details. Yeah, but like, it depends. If you have a salesman that lies, and you actually did your own research, then you're not going to trust that salesman. So if he lies, he needs to be a really good liar. Like, he needs to lie in such a way that you're not going to catch him. I'm a software development and operations engineer at a startup. I write server configurations, and I work less than 40 hours a week. I keep thinking they'll figure out how easy my job is and decide to fire me. Instead, they tell me I'm doing a great job and promote me. Yeah, but like, if they fire you, they'll probably have to pay the same amount for another guy because there aren't that many software development and operations engineers. Do you know how difficult it is to find a coder? Like, I actually struggled a lot to find mine. It's not as easy as it sounds. TV preachers. Oh, fuck off. Again, a job is actually as... So the way a job is paid is by how many people can do it, right? If you have a job that a lot of people can do it, it's probably going to be underpaid. So, for example, cleaning, right? Like almost everyone can clean. Like everyone cleans their house. This is why being a janitor is not well paid. Being a nurse. Being a nurse is better paid because not a lot of people can be a nurse, but it's not as good as paid as being a football player, right? Because Ronaldo is just one guy. Like, he's Ronaldo, he's the brand, right? So he's going to get more money than a nurse. And this is what the leftists never understand. Like how the wage works. A TV preacher, to be able to manipulate people, to be able to get people to give you those donations, to be able to convince people that they need to spend their money and donate for that holy water, you do understand like, that not many are capable of doing this. Like it's a job that very, very few people can actually do it. Is it a useless job? I don't know. I mean, you're getting gullible people to give you their money. If they don't give it to you, they will give it to someone else. Does Ronaldo wants to see Jake Paul? Am I a TV preacher? Man, I would not be able to do that. Like, I would not be able to live with myself knowing that I'm taking old people's money. Unironically. Like, even I have a couple of standards. Like knowing that there's that old lady there, and she is, like, trying to take people, trying to take your money. There's that old lady there, and you're trying to take her savings so that you lie to her that she's going to go to heaven. It's so fucked up. Pharmaceutical or medical sales. They're usually not even medically qualified to determine what their patients need. Yeah, but, like, that's not how it fucking works. The pharmaceutical salesman is trying to cut a deal with the doctor. The doctor knows what the patients need, right? You as the salesman, you're going there, you're talking to him. It's like, okay, so we got this drug. This is what it does. This is what the side effects are. And this is how much money we're going to pay you under the table if you give this drug to your patients. That's what the job is like. But They don't have to know what the patient needs. Like, they're not paid for that. It's like a car salesman. A car salesman doesn't need to know what you... I mean, the car salesman doesn't need to know, like, why do you need the car for, right? Like, he doesn't necessarily need to know, oh, well, you want to be a taxi driver. No, like, he needs to know... Sorry, he doesn't need to know, like, where do you get the money for the car, right? Like, that's something that a car salesman doesn't need to know. That's too much info. But he does need to know the type of car you want. Like, you want a car to drive your kids to school. Okay, well, this is the one that we recommend. But he doesn't need to know, like, where are you going to get the money for it? Like, how are you going to get the money? That's... And it's the same with, like, the pharmaceutical guy. Like, he doesn't need to know, like, why do you want to give this pill to the patients? What do the patient needs? Like, he doesn't need to see the medical record of the patients. No, it's like, okay, well, we got a new heart pill. It's going to lower the blood pressure level, right? And these are the side effects. This is how much it costs. You want ours because it's more cheaper. Like, if you have patients that can't pay, they're more likely to get our product, blah, 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 blah. I don't understand, like, the argument there. Have you heard about the Unification Church? They extort people like that. No, but I heard about, like, the U.S., what is it called? Evangelical thing, where you had, like, evangelicals on television, and they would perform a lot of these miracles in order to try and convince the public that they're holy men, and then they would ask for donations. And they would be like, oh, if you donate, we'll give you, like, this bottle of holy water. Honestly, it was like the original bath girl water. Like, tele-evangelicals did it first. Where does this exist, that you have to pay your way to heaven? The Catholic Church, I think with the Borgias, they created this concept. So it was the concept of forgiveness, right? Like, you pay money to the church, and in exchange, the church will pray to you, right? So, like, it's kind of... The church has, like, an id to Jesus. Like, they're more closely affiliated, right? So it's kind of like nepotism, kind of like the mafia. Like, the church knows the Don. Like, they speak with him. They know him personally. And if you did something to upset the Don, then you pay the church, and the church talks to the Don on your behalf. And they're like, look, Don Corleone. He fucked up. He promises not to fuck up again. Please forgive him. So yes, the Catholics are the ones that came up with this. But it's not like something that's particularly Catholic. I mean, before Christianity, you had the same thing with the gods, right? So in order to appease the gods, you would have to make an offering. And that offering could have been either financial, or you sacrifice an animal. Like, at the time, that was very expensive, right? Like, you bring your, like, first lamb or whatever. And you hope that Zeus is going to be happy with your sacrifice. No, it wasn't made up. But again, like, how do you think all these religious institutions fund themselves, man? Like, they find ways in order to make a profit. Like, they still employ people. Like, this is something else that bewilders me. It's like, in Romania, it's like, oh, well, why does the church make money? It's like, okay, but, like, it is a job. Like, even if you don't believe in God, being a preacher, you need to have charisma in order to do that. Like, you need to do the religious songs, you need to reach to people, so on and so forth. So, you need to have a way in order to attract people, and you need to get paid. Like, those priests need to eat as well. They need to sleep somewhere. I still have better buyer's remorse than fake preacher. No, I think a fake preacher is going to give you much more buyer's remorse than I'd give. Give me money to spread the word of Jesus. Well, that actually did happen. Like, when they went to the New World in order to spread religion to the new masses. Like, they required funding. Yeah. Anyway, right. Thank you guys for watching the stream. Holy shit, I got a lot of donations. I appreciate it, and I need to go to work now, make my other videos. Also, if you're a good writer in horror, please contact me on DMs or Twitter. You'll see why. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the comment section.